Welcome all you great houses of the Landsrod. This is the Vidra Network. Thank you for stopping by. Now, strap in as the Spacing Guild folds time and space and drops us off on a little desert planet called Arrakis. That's right, we're going to be talking about one of my all-time favorites, Dune. Now, Dune, a 400 hardback or 900-page paperback book, was written by Frank Herbert back in the 60s. It's actually part, or rather a reworked imagining of two of his stories that he wrote for some sci-fi magazines in the early 60s. So in 1965 the book comes out. They tried to get it into the cinema in the 70s, it just didn't work out. And in 1984, David Lynch takes his hand at it and gives us the epic adventure that we have today, which starred Kyle MacLachlan, Sting, Max von Sydow, Patrick Stewart, Dean Stockwell, Sean Young, and a soundtrack by Toto. Many years later, in the year 2000, the Sci-Fi Channel picks up the rights and we get their miniseries, Dune, and the sequel book, Children of Dune. Now, 2020, 20 years after the last time we've seen it on screen, we're getting a new one. December 18th, we will see a new revised version, maybe a new reimagining perhaps, of Frank Herbert's Dune that's going to star Jason Momoa, Dave Bautista, Javier Bardem, Oscar Isaac. It's going to be great. You get a chance to look it up. There are some screenshots and some stills that you can find that it looks pretty good. Now, the story itself, the 1984 movie, the book, they don't waste any time getting right to the story. I mean, it starts off whiz-bang right from the beginning. We see Paul, who is the main character and the main proponent of the whole story, as he's being introduced to a Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother. Now, the Bene Gesserit, you can think of them kind of as the Illuminati. This was a sisterhood that basically manipulated empires and marriages and genealogies for centuries down the line. And Paul's mother is a Bene Gesserit. Now, why is this important? Well, because that they do that manipulation, Paul's mother was told to only bear females so that the houses that were warring could be joined together and end the feuding. But Paul's father wanted a son, and Jessica loved her husband so much, she gave him a son. So, we have a conundrum because there's all these prophecies of this coming being that can see where the Bene Gesserit can't see and things like that. So Paul is put under a particular test. The Reverend Mother comes in, invites Paul in, and has him place his hand into this wooden box. And he slides his hand in. You can't see it. It has no openings except for the very front. And then she places a poisoned needle right at his neck. It's called the Gom Jabbar. And she tells him if he pulls his hand out, he will die. If he screams, he will die. This is a test of how well he can stand up under pressure and fear. Well, Paul has been taught a mantra by his Bene Gesserit mother against fear. And that mantra goes something like, fear is the mind killer. I will face my fear. I will let it pass through me. And when it is gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. It's a great deal. Well, clearly it's the very, very beginning of the book and the movie. He passes the test and he doesn't get poisoned. So that's, spoilers there. But that whole little thing about fear is pretty interesting. Now, fear is an emotion, right? Fear is an emotion that's based on the belief that something or someone is going to do us harm, that we are going to be hurt from this thing or a person. Now, it can be good or it can be bad. It can keep us from jumping off a cliff, getting a speeding ticket. It can keep us from doing any number of things that we would find harmful to ourselves. Now, it can be bad because it can paralyze us and keep us from moving forward. Fear of the unknown, fear of the dark, fear of relationships, fear of intimacy, fear of rejection. all of these things can kind of block us and keep us from moving forward or maybe experiencing the most amazing thing in our entire life. So it's kind of important to pick up this mantra. I mean, I get it. Right now, it's scary. We're all going through some things that we should be afraid of. Some of us are afraid of losing our jobs, losing our homes, losing our family. I mean, the potential of losing a loved one, it's there, and it's real. But I will say this. Throughout the Bible, God has been put up as a refuge. He tells us that He is our refuge. He is our strong tower. He is our proponent. He is our defender. So why wouldn't we want to rely on that? See, that should spark some hope. And then in the persona of Jesus, there's even more hope because there's a hope of an afterlife, something that's greater than this that we're experiencing. Jesus said that there would be wars and rumors of wars and famines and pestilence, but it would be nothing compared to what's to come, and that we should be strong and stand up for it and hold on to our faith. The night that He was betrayed, He was in the garden, He was praying. He knew what was happening. He knew what was going to happen to Him. If we could say that He wasn't God, so He didn't have any foreknowledge of it, there were still hundreds of years of prophecy about that night. He knew it was going to happen, but He was God, and He did know it was going to happen. He had told His disciples multiple times what was about to happen. But in that garden, He was afraid. It says that He was so stressed and under so much pressure that He bled, or rather sweat blood. That's a real medical condition. You can look it up. The body gets so just uncontrollable that you sweat blood. It is an intense feeling of stress and fear. But throughout that, not once did He say, "Take me away from this." What He did say was, "I would rather it not happen because it was going to be terrible." But He said, "Your will be done. Let me do what you need me to do." And when He prayed for His disciples, He didn't pray that God would take them out of whatever was happening and what was going to happen. He prayed that God would take them through it. Man, I mean, that's a great hope that God is going to take us through it. Paul reiterates this later on too, when he talks about becoming heirs with Christ to the glory of God, that what is coming, what is available to us is so much better, and that we have become heirs because of Jesus' sacrifice. And he even says that to become that heir, we must suffer like Jesus did, but that suffering was nothing compared to the glory that we would inherit in the end. It's some hope, man. It's some great hope. And I hope that it brings you some hope and just a little bit of something to hold on to. Thanks for listening. If you want to talk about it, shoot us an email at thevjernetwork@gmail.com. Leave a comment below. Hey man, grab somebody and give them a hug. Stay safe. And you can be afraid. Be fearful. But keep that hope of what's about to come. J-O-Y.